Crawford's brilliant. Like he's a genius. He's a generational great. So maybe he can find a way to do it. But I feel he'd be hugely outsized against Canelo Alvarez. Yeah. But you have to use your movement.
A good little man has never beaten a good big man in the history of the game, unless you go back to certain situations with Pacquiao.
A lot of people that say that Crawford can beat Canelo, no problem. I mean, I respect that, but I just think they're stupid. I mean, excuse my language. The size difference of a bigger man changes everything with one punch.
Crawford's camp has detailed their advantage against Canelo, but it has only brought in more warnings from the pros telling him it's not as easy as he thinks. Terence Crawford's team recently revealed that they believe his secret weapon poses a unique challenge for Canelo Alvarez. And as the two prepare for a high-stakes showdown, Crawford's unorthodox style could prove pivotal.
Me, I'm always up for the challenge. If you know Terence Crawford, you know he's always going to try to challenge. And whatever, you can be bigger than him, taller than him. It don't matter. He's always going to challenge you.
Right.
And I can't not help it.
Right.
It's just in me. So it's
right.
like
His camp, led by longtime trainer Brian McIntyre, insists that no fighter in recent memory can match Crawford's adaptability, versatility, and high ring IQ. They argue that these traits make him the most dangerous opponent Canelo has faced, even as the Mexican superstar continues to solidify his legacy as one of the greatest pound-for-pound fighters in the sport. But according to almost every voice in the sport, things might be bad for him when Canelo starts throwing punches. As anticipation builds for the September 12th showdown in Las Vegas, Crawford's inner circle believes the undefeated fighter represents a challenge that Canelo Alvarez has yet to solve in his long and decorated career. According to Bernie Davis, a close associate of Crawford, no sparring partner or training camp can truly simulate what Crawford brings to the ring. Davis argues that Crawford's adaptability and high boxing IQ present an unsolvable puzzle for the Mexican icon, a sentiment echoed by other members of the Omaha natives' tight-knit circle.
Mind and spirit, he's still youthful about boxing. He loves boxing, and this is one way to get him up. You know, he's a challenge guy. He loves a challenge, and Canelo is the biggest challenge you can get. You know, we got to go up 2 weight classes, really 3 weight classes to get a guy like that. Hardest puncher, great counter puncher, tons of experience, undisputed champion, unified champion, a couple of divisions.
Davis emphasized in a recent interview with Mill City Boxing that Canelo will struggle to prepare for a fighter with such fluid style switching and tactical unpredictability. He said that while some might compare Crawford's potential approach to that of Floyd Mayweather, elusive movement, defensive precision, and calculated counters, Crawford is a different kind of beast. His ability to switch stances effortlessly from orthodox to southpaw without compromising his power or precision sets him apart. This versatility, according to Davis, is the key to unlocking the Canelo puzzle, one that even the Mexican superstar, despite his incredible ring intelligence, may struggle to solve.
Canelo a big dude, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I believe in my abilities. He's a heavy dude, but he's not a big guy. Like he's 5'8", I'm 5'8", you know what I mean? My arm's longer than his, you know? That fight would be good. You won't get hit in the fight.
Nevertheless, some analysts believe that excessive stance switching may prove ineffective against a seasoned veteran like Canelo, who is not easily thrown off by such tactics. They argue that Canelo's ability to adapt mid-fight, his excellent upper body movement, and his devastating body shots make him a nightmare for any opponent, regardless of their style. Crawford may have the tools, but the question remains whether he can execute against an elite operator like Canelo, who has faced nearly every type of fighter over his 18-year career.
And the biggest question to me, how will the 12-pound difference be for Terence Crawford? It's going to be his first fight at 168. For Canelo, this is the weight class that he always fights at, no problem. But I'm really curious on how Terence Crawford is going to be able to adjust to this and if it's going to be advantage.
One of the loudest voices warning Crawford of the danger he faces is retired former world champion Amir Khan, who famously faced Canelo back in 2016. Speaking to Fast Slots, Khan reflected on the brutal knockout that left him unconscious in the 6th round, a moment that, by his own admission, changed his career forever. Khan didn't just lose a fight that night, he lost a piece of himself, a psychological edge that never returned. He's pound for pound the best fighter in the world, Khan said. I was never the same fighter again after facing Canelo. You can get knocked down? Fine, you can get back up again. But the knockout Canelo gave me, it probably took 5 years off my life.
Toughest opponent, you have to say Canelo probably, because he was so big and physical and strong. You know, he had the weight behind him. I remember hitting him, and he didn't budge. Like, he did not even move. That's what you think.
Your face when you said that.
Yeah, it was like, I was like, I swear that's what. And when I hit him with that left hook, right hand, and that's a shot I've literally knocked a lot of people down with. And he didn't move back, and I thought, oh shit. I got my hands full here.
Khan's perspective is a deep warning of the physical and psychological toll a fight with Canelo can exact. For all his skill and intelligence, Crawford will have to contend not just with Canelo's power, but with the pressure of facing a man who has left a trail of broken fighters in his wake. It's not just the knockout that Khan warns about, but the lasting impact on a fighter's confidence, durability, and overall approach to the sport. Khan insists that Crawford, despite his brilliance, is walking into a trap set by one of the most physically imposing fighters of his era.
Canelo versus Terence Crawford is going to be such an easy fight for Canelo because Terence Crawford can't run the whole fight and win, as we have seen in the Canelo versus William Skull fight, which means Terence Crawford is going to have to engage with Canelo, and Terence Crawford doesn't have the power to hurt Canelo. Terence Crawford's performance against Israel Madrimov was also trash, and Israel Madrimov isn't even the best fighter at 154. And let me remind you, Terence Crawford is 37 years old, so I'm expecting Canelo to knock out Terence Crawford the same way he knocked out Amir Khan.
Come on, Shagor, come here.
Come on,
Julio Cesar Chavez, a legend in his own right and one of Mexico's most beloved sports figures, has also weighed in on the potential outcome. Speaking to Fight Hub TV, Chavez boldly predicted that Canelo Alvarez will not just win the fight, but knock Crawford out. It's really an uneven fight, Chavez said. Crawford is a great fighter, but Canelo is out of his league. Crawford is going for the money, and Canelo is going to knock him out. For Chavez, it's a matter of sheer physicality and power, a gap that even the most skilled technician might struggle to bridge.
The two fighters are going to be different weight classes, even though they're going to fight on a specific weight. He believes that they're just going because of the money, Crawford, but probably Canelo is going to knock him out.
Would you rather see Canelo?
Oscar De La Hoya, who promoted Canelo for a decade before their acrimonious split, has a slightly more nuanced take. Speaking to Brian Mazik, De La Hoya acknowledged Crawford's greatness and the historic implications of a potential upset, but ultimately leaned toward a Canelo victory. If Crawford can do it, Jesus Lord, I mean, give this man the title of being the greatest ever, but I just don't see it. Canelo is a big puncher. Yeah, he walks on quicksand, and that's the one thing that Crawford can use against him, but the pressure of the heavier guy, Canelo will be 200 pounds in that ring. It's a tough fight, but look, I give all the credit to Crawford. If he pulls it off, he'll be the messiah of fighters.
A good little man has never beaten a good big man in the history of the game, unless you go back to certain situations with Pacquiao beat me, but I was a dead man walking anyway. But a good little man never beats a good big man, so it's a tough test for Crawford, but I'm not counting him out. The bottom line, this is the truth again, it's a money grab. That's it. Yeah.
Eddie Hearn, one of the sport's most influential promoters and a close collaborator with Canelo in recent years, echoed these concerns. He noted that while Crawford's skill set is second to none, the size difference is simply too great to ignore. Crawford's not just coming up to 168, he just moved to 154. Before that, he was at 147, then 140, then 135. I just think the size is too much, Hearn told Boxing Social. For Hearn, the issue isn't just about skills, but about physicality and durability, two factors that heavily favor Canelo.
How is Crawford going to be able to bridge this weight gap?
I don't think he can, in all honesty. I mean, he might not be able to bridge it on Saturday.
Yeah.
So,
one weight class.
68, yeah, but you're coming up from 35. 35, 40, 47, 54. Sooner or later, it's one too many. And 68 is definitely too many. But Crawford's brilliant. Like, he's a genius. He's a generational great. So maybe he can find a way to do it. But I feel he'd be hugely outsized against Canelo Alvarez.
Yeah.
But you have
Hearn referenced Crawford's bout against Israel Madrimov, a strong 154 pounder, as evidence that even at junior middleweight, Crawford has struggled to impose his will on physically imposing fighters. I think he struggled against Madrimov, who's a strong 154 pounder, and he'll really feel it in there against Canelo, Hearn added. The British promoter, while acknowledging Crawford's brilliance, remains firm in his belief that the American's move up in weight will be his downfall.
Crawford fight?
I don't think so. I think that he's much too much weight for Terence. You know, his style was difficult. You know, people will say it was a poor performance from Terence, but let's just say it was a great performance from Madrimov. You know, I think 168 is much too big for Terence. But like he said, if the money's right, he'll fight.
Just after his big win against Ryan Garcia, outspoken Rolly Romero also weighed in, dismissing Crawford's chances outright. Speaking to S News, Romero said, "Let me ask you this. Who's a better fighter, Floyd Mayweather or Terence Crawford? You're going to compare a 168-pound solid-grown man, Canelo, to fight Terence Crawford?" He went on to ridicule those who believe Crawford can win, calling them stupid for ignoring the fundamental laws of physics that govern the sport. They have weight classes for a reason, Romero insisted, emphasizing that Canelo's size and power would be overwhelming.
Rolando Rolly Romero claims Canelo Alvarez, who has only lost twice in 67 fights, will suffer a third defeat, but not against Terence Crawford. Rolly believes David Benavidez would school Canelo, as Benavidez is fighting to win, not just for a paycheck. However, Canelo has been dismissing a Benavidez fight, focusing instead on a Bivol rematch. In boxing, anything can happen, so stay tuned.
David Benavidez, a top contender now campaigning at light heavyweight, is the latest big name to weigh in on the potential clash between Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford. Having long sought a fight with Canelo himself, Benavidez's perspective carries weight, particularly given his first-hand experience at the upper echelons of the sport. In an interview with Sean Zittel, Benavidez broke down why he believes Crawford, despite his undeniable skill, faces a steep uphill battle in his potential debut at 168 pounds. Benavidez started by acknowledging Crawford's technical brilliance, calling him one of the best technical fighters he's ever seen. Yet he was quick to temper his praise by pointing out a critical detail that could define the outcome. He noted that Crawford, for all his mastery, seemed to lose some of his trademark power when he moved up to 154 pounds. I'm not saying he had problems, but he looked like he didn't have the power he had at 147, Benavidez explained.
I'm not even a fan of that fight. There are too many weight classes apart. And although the skills, Crawford is one of the best fighters that I've seen. Now, Canelo is, fighting at 168. Crawford just moved up to 154, and he had some trouble with that in that fight. Now, where do you plan on going? 164, 65, 66? Canelo's gonna come down to 160.
For a fighter like Crawford, known for his precise counters and finishing instincts, any perceived dip in power could spell disaster against a naturally larger, stronger opponent like Canelo. Benavidez further elaborated on the physical realities that make this matchup particularly daunting for Crawford. Crawford is a one-of-a-kind fighter, and especially if he knows he's going to 168, he'll probably bulk up, but weight classes have to be respected, he said. This point echoes a broader sentiment in boxing, where the adage that weight classes exist for a reason holds particular significance. While Crawford's skills are exceptional, Benavidez emphasized that Canelo's physicality and natural size advantage at super middleweight give him a significant edge.
My prediction is Canelo's gonna walk him down. Crawford is gonna do a lot of defense. Now, if he pulls off that win, dude, that's gonna be one of the most biggest upsets of all time for this dude to go up that many weight classes. And now I do think that, he's going to get his little shots in as far as, finessing and all that, because his hands are definitely way faster than Canelo. But just the weight and the way that Canelo fights, he's not going to back up against Crawford. Yeah.
From Benavidez's perspective, the sheer physicality of the larger man in the ring is something that can't be overlooked. He pointed out that while Crawford may bulk up in preparation for the jump to 168, the process isn't as straightforward as simply adding muscle. Fighters moving up in weight often face a trade-off between speed, power, and stamina, and few have managed the leap as seamlessly as someone like Canelo, who has campaigned as high as light heavyweight with success. If Crawford is going against Canelo, in his first fight at 168, he has a lot of disadvantages against him, so I feel like Canelo would win. He's bigger and more experienced, so I give him the edge, Benavidez concluded.
I truly believe, that, anything can happen in boxing, you know what I'm saying? And Terence Crawford is a legend. He's great. He's a great fighter. The only thing I see that I favor Canelo is that is his weight.
Yeah.
And that he's more bigger. You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing. But as far as skill set wise, IQ, I feel like Crawford can match anybody and probably do way better. You know what I'm saying? But Crawford is a legend, bro.
Yeah.
And like I said, you can't.
Meanwhile, Lopez, another respected voice in the sport, also sided with the Mexican superstar, predicting a late stoppage in favor of Canelo. Speaking to Ease News, Lopez offered a more balanced view, acknowledging that Crawford might trouble Canelo early on before the size and power disparity inevitably tipped the scales. I think Crawford is going to give Canelo a hard time in the beginning, but once Canelo gets a little bit comfortable in that ring, adapting to Crawford's style, we see Canelo finishing him off in the late rounds, Lopez said. Lopez's view underscores a critical aspect of this potential matchup, Canelo's ability to adjust. Over the course of his career, Canelo has proven remarkably adept at deciphering the styles of his opponents, even those considered highly technical or awkward. His fights against the likes of Austin Trout, Arislandi Lara, and Caleb Plant demonstrate his knack for gradually wearing down technically skilled fighters. If Crawford can't hurt Canelo early, or at least make him respect his power, the fight could follow a similar script, with the heavier, more powerful man breaking his opponent down over time.
Crawford, Canelo, who you got?
Crawford, Canelo? I still say Canelo.
I got Canelo too.
I still say Canelo. Ring IQ, I believe that Crawford has a bit more.
Yeah.
However, it's just the size difference. I think that where Crawford is lacking is that he should test the waters even with somebody at that weight class before facing Canelo. But hey, they say he's a dog, he's got shot in the head and drove to the hospital, so maybe that's...
Despite these concerns, Crawford's camp continues to express confidence. However, even his own trainer, Brian McIntyre, has raised a different kind of alarm, one that has nothing to do with power or physicality. Bomac has publicly expressed concerns about fair judging, hinting that Crawford might not get a fair shake if the fight goes the distance. He's only wilder than Bud. He's not taller than Bud. But the only thing that sometimes worries me is the name Canelo. Will we get a fair shake? If the fight is close, will we get a fair shake? Bomac asked in a recent interview with Mill City Boxing.
Everybody that believes in hardcore boxing fans, they know Crawford can beat Canelo, just like they knew Bud was going to beat Spence. This is real simple. It's real simple. You just got to know boxing in order for you to be able to say that.
This preemptive focus on judging has sparked speculation that Bomac is already laying the groundwork for a potential excuse if Crawford falls short. Critics have suggested that this kind of rhetoric signals a lack of confidence in Crawford's ability to decisively outbox the naturally larger Alvarez. If the fight is close and the judges side with Canelo, Bomac's comments will likely serve as a rallying point for Crawford's supporters, allowing them to frame a potential loss as a robbery rather than a straightforward defeat.
Right. I want to apologize.
Yeah.
Because after watching that fight, I see what you were talking about.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's movement. That movement all sets everybody, man. And with Canelo, he gets frustrated. You see it, he's walking to you and all that. If he can't touch you, you know what I mean? That's it. You know what I mean?
Now, did watching that make you feel like Terence Crawford has better than a 50% chance?
Still, not everyone is counting Crawford out. Teddy Atlas, one of the sport's most respected analysts and a former trainer, has thrown his weight behind Crawford. Speaking on the Fight podcast, Atlas left no doubt about where he stands, declaring that he's firmly in Crawford's corner. "I ain't going against Crawford," Atlas said. "I do think he's that special guy. I think Canelo's special too, but Crawford even more so. He hasn't learned how to lose yet. I think he does have those special ingredients that go beyond the physical." Atlas's confidence in Crawford seems to stem from the intangibles, the mental toughness, the ring IQ, and the sheer competitive drive that have carried him to an undefeated record. In Atlas's view, these qualities can often bridge the physical gap, allowing a smaller, more skilled fighter to overcome a physically imposing opponent. For Atlas, it's not just about size or power, but about the mindset and psychological edge that Crawford brings into the ring.
How is Crawford, his composure going to be like the moment a punch lands on him from Canelo?
Are you kidding me? Take that question back.
Yeah, why?
Because you're talking about Crawford. He's
the weight classes.
He's the most composed guy. What, you don't think he'll be prepared? You think it'll be a shock to him? No. He's already moved up 3 weight classes. So now you're talking 6. If you add on 3. Crawford has the ability to slow things down in the ring that very few people have.
Adding to this chorus of cautious optimism is Shakur Stevenson, a rising star in the lighter weight classes and one of Crawford's closest allies in the sport. Stevenson, known for his own technical brilliance, believes that Crawford will box out of Canelo and make it look easy. Speaking to IFL TV, Stevenson dismissed the idea that Crawford would be out of his depth, instead predicting that the Omaha native's skills and mental toughness will carry the day. "Terence is crazy. That dude is psycho," Stevenson said, marveling at Crawford's willingness to take on a challenge of this magnitude without demanding a rehydration clause, a move that many consider a significant risk given the size discrepancy.
The others say, like, no, that's 2 more weight classes. Like, once he gets touched by Canelo, it's going to be different.
I am concerned about him absorbing a Canelo punch, especially through the course of 12 rounds. We do know this about Canelo. He's going to slow down, so I think if anything, Canelo would try to start fast and bang on him and break him down before he gets later, and he's still got that kind of steam.
Stevenson's faith in Crawford, while unshakable, stands in stark contrast to the more cautious assessments of fighters like Benavidez and Lopez, highlighting the split in opinion among boxing's elite. As the debate continues, the only certainty is that this matchup, if it happens, will be one of the most compelling in recent memory. A clash not just of styles, but of physicality, psychology, and sheer will. But if Crawford pulls off this win, then this will be a bigger moment in the sport. But do you see him actually doing it? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for future analysis.